episode 180, a conversation with Rugid Grind founders Brian Washington and Averett Barksdale. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host for this show. Thank you so much for joining me today as we talk with Brian Washington and Averett Barksdale about their company, Rugid Grind, and the vision they have for solving the problem of teen homelessness in Houston and beyond. This is such an inspiring conversation with Brian and Averett, and I'm truly excited to share it with you today. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prima Coffee. Prima Coffee has been a longtime sponsor of this show, and I've known them since the beginning of their company. They are just obsessed with finding the best coffee equipment from all over the world and providing it to you so that you can have the best tools at your disposal to make the best coffee, whether you're making that at home or in the shop. In fact, if you're looking to outfit your commercial coffee bar with anything from espresso machines, grinders, or under-counter refrigeration even, equipment on that end of things, Prima Coffee can hook you up for sure. I would encourage you to go to prima-coffee.com and see what I'm talking about, because you're going to see, first of all, they have an amazing selection of equipment to choose from, and then they also have free guides, videos, things like that to just help you get to know the equipment and give you tips and techniques for making great coffee. And this all comes from a heart to really equip you with the best equipment out there. And that's been consistent ever since I've known them. And it's really an honor to have them as a sponsor to the show, because this show is all about equipping you to be successful in your store. So go to prima-coffee.com, see what they have to offer you. And I'm going to guess they're going to have something that's going to really help you wherever you're at in your coffee journey. So again, prima-coffee.com. Let them know that Keys to the Shop sent you. And thank you so much, Prima, for your support of Keys to the Shop. This episode is also brought to you by the wonderful people over at Pacific Barista Series. The Pacific Barista Series is a series of plant-based performance beverages that are just the top of the line for what you would want in a specialty coffee environment. So whether you're using the coconut, rice, soy, almond, or oat milk, their product takes the heat from the steaming process and it produces an amazing texture that makes latte art possible. Tastes great because it keeps the flavor balance focused on coffee, and these and more make it a perfect choice for your cafe's menu. Pacific is just really dedicated to the success of specialty coffee globally and baristas around the world. They produce these in tandem with baristas to make sure that they perform the way professional baristas want them to. So long story short here, if you want the best plant-based beverages in your shop to help your coffee shine and really take your customers' experience to the next level, then I would encourage you, get Pacific in your store, try it out, see how it works with your coffee, and you can find out more information by visiting pacificfoods.com. And a huge thank you to Pacific for your support of Keys to the Shop. All right, so today we are in for a super inspirational conversation with the founders of Rugid Grind, Brian Washington and Averett Barksdale. Rugid Grind was founded in 2019, and when they founded this company, they founded it as a for-profit coffee provider that as of now acts as the sole supporter and funder of the Oneighty Project, which is their nonprofit that's dedicated to ending teenage homelessness around the world. We're going to be getting to hear their story in this conversation. They've been studying the process and building their headquarters in Houston, Texas, and they quickly built their branding into one that serves a greater purpose while also serving a top quality cup of coffee. They are wholly dedicated to giving their customers the best quality beverage possible, while at the same time, the goal that they've committed themselves to is much bigger than the beverage that they serve. As pastors and frequent leaders of missions trips and outreach projects, both Washington and Barksdale have seen an epidemic of teenage homelessness firsthand. Over 1 million American teenagers are going to go to sleep tonight without a home, and countless others are on the verge of homelessness. And the direct funding that the Rugid Grind will provide to the Oneighty Project is going to help them execute their vision of ending teenage homelessness. And also it's going to give at-risk teens the next generation a greater chance at success. Now, in today's conversation, we're going to dive into the story behind the brand Rugid Grind and how they came to coffee as the vehicle to affect change in this really important area. Their heart is on full display in this conversation. And the stories that they have to share about their introduction to the world of specialty coffee, I think, is going to be really encouraging to you as they find a community in the world of coffee that reflects the kind of community that they want to build amongst people hoping to solve this problem of teen homelessness around the world. And frankly, when you hear about somebody doing something this massive and founding a company with this kind of vision, you can't help but be inspired and look to see what you can do with the means that you've been given. And as you listen to this conversation with Brian and Averett, I think it's worth thinking through, like, what kind of platform do I have with my shop or my company, or the means that I have to support things like this. Take a page from their playbook and see what can be done within your sphere of influence. So with that said, let's get right to the conversation, talking about the founding of Rugid Grind and solving the problem of teen homelessness worldwide with the founders of Rugid Grind, Brian Washington and Averett Barksdale. All right, Averett, Brian, welcome to Keys to the Shop. I'm really happy to be talking with you today.
We're really excited to be talking with you too. We're excited to be on the show. Thank you for having us.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
So I was made aware of your company because I was because of a mutual friend, Joe Morocco, who was just at your location, and I wanted to investigate what you all were doing there, and learning the story and the mission of the company on your website. Reached out immediately. I just wanted to talk with you all and broadcast what's going on there at Rugid Grind. It's a fascinating story and mission, and I guess we just want to start the interview by saying, like, what is the story of founding this? Like, what led you both to start Rugid Grind? What are your backgrounds, and what was the catalyst for this?
I guess I'll go first. I would say 18 years is the history of time I've had in dealing with students. And we've dealt with just a lot of homeless teenagers. Everything from abandonment to family abuse, even like just life preferences and choices, the ways that they've decided to live their lives that has caused them to kind of be isolated. And so we initially started this off with just a nonprofit mission in mind, and that was our Oneighty Project. But then as we got started, we realized, and we just came to the conclusion of a few things. And one of those things was, we live in a time and in an era where donations and asking people for money is almost like a curse word, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were like, we need some stability and a way to sustain ourselves beyond donations. And my 18 years is in the pastoral sector of nonprofits. So I drank plenty of coffee. Didn't always love it, but we drank it, right? Because if we be honest, in ministry, it's normally Starbucks, Folgers, Coffee House. Isn't that the name of it? I think it's Coffee House. Yeah. Just the really trash of coffee, okay? And so I would say what got us to this place, honestly, was 2 years ago. I went on a mission trip to Haiti. And while I was in Haiti, I had an opportunity to try some of their coffee. And what I loved about it was it wasn't bitter. I loved that it was a really smooth taste. And it just was something that I could drink even without sugar and without cream and still enjoy as a person who didn't drink much coffee. And so I got back home and was sharing with my wife not only what I experienced with the coffee, but I brought some home. And she tried it and she said, one day I think we're going to do something with this. Well, fast forward, and it's like, we're like, okay, so what do we do? And I mean, it was like a no-brainer. We do coffee, and so that's kind of how we got into the concept of it. My background is not just in ministry, but it's also in graphics and design. So we were like, clearly we can develop a brand around this and a concept around this that supports the greater cause of the mission. That way we can get waist deep, knee deep into the thick of what's going on out here without waiting for people to come up and say, we want to donate or we want to give to what you're doing.
I came in on it with Brian. I actually, not until we started this company, I didn't drink coffee. And I thought coffee was actually terrible. I thought it was the worst drink imaginable. And I think it was really just because what Brian stated, myself, I only had like Folgers, right? So I've only had that type of coffee my whole life. So then that caused me not to branch out and drink other coffees. Like that just ruined the experience for me. And the biggest thing is, and when he came back and he was like, hey man, you have to try this coffee. I'm like, no. I've tried coffee already. I hate it, right? I hate it. I don't see how people drink it. Like, I'll rather just drink Red Bull if I need energy or whatever. And he's like, no, taste this. I'm like, no, I've already tasted that. He's like, no, you haven't tasted this though. So I actually tasted it and I'm like, oh, wow. Like, this is actually like, I can taste like flavors in here, you know? It's not just like this bitter, like just like grit tasting drink. So from there, I was like very interested. And from there, like I really dove into coffee and started to look it up. And then I love the community aspect around it. So that really helped it out as well. Me coming around to be more of a coffee lover before we actually dove into this thing. So, and since then, I've really just been following Brian's lead. We both have a background in graphic design and different things like that. So we had been working together before and we were just super close and we both had a heart for the same mission. And he brought up the idea and I said, you know what, I'm on board.
Nice. So the Oneighty Project was already in existence, and this, like you said, this is a thing to help fund the Oneighty Project. How long had the Oneighty Project been going on before you started Rugid Grind?
Actually, I'm gonna be honest with you, it all happened like almost at the same time. Like literally, we started the Oneighty Project. We sat in a board meeting, a group of us, and we were like, okay, let's cast vision for how do we move forward from here. Right. And to be honest with you, the Rugid Grind wasn't just there to support the Oneighty Project, but we also understood that there were a lot of entities out there, smaller entities out there, who really need a revenue stream to create some form of income to even accomplish their mission, which is the same mission as ours, right? And so we sat down, and as we were developing this, we literally developed them simultaneously because we understood that the mission that we were developing or we were creating was even bigger than us. You know, honestly, from the time I started ministry, we've had kids who we've had to take in, and kids we've had to help place, right? And so we understood that there was a need out there that was bigger than one entity or one individual trying to fix. And so we wanted to create something that we understood could help us and help others along the way at the same time.
Okay. So how is it going so far?
I would say it's going really good. I would be honest and say, you know, with anything that you're getting started, you're learning so much along the way, right? You learning, and we're probably having a crash course in both elements because we're developing a greater understanding of coffee just beyond the beverage, right? Understanding the fundamentals of like what goes into quality coffee. But also, like my partner was saying earlier, understanding the community. And that I think is the dynamic that is really awesome in it, is the fact that there's a community within the coffee culture. And so understanding that community and understanding even the different levels of people's understanding within those communities of what goes into or what is quality coffee, you know? And so learning and understanding that element, as well as understanding the behind the scenes, what happens before you get the green bean, and understanding the farmers and the culture and the community that that those farms that you're buying coffee from the communities that you're supporting even within that. And so for us, like I said, the understanding was kind of beginning to take form before we started to develop, because we had already been to Haiti, and I'd already been to a farm, and I'd already seen how it affects the economy within those communities just in Haiti. Not speaking on a lot of those other communities, but I'm able to speak more on Haiti just because Haiti is a place that we had fully experienced. And so understanding how it affects those communities just really gave us even a greater sense or a greater draw or pull in the understanding that this was definitely a purpose that we wanted to be a part of, or a mission that we wanted to be a part of.
And when he says our understanding has been developing and we've come a long way, he's serious about that, because at the beginning, we literally thought that we were going to hop on a plane, fly to Haiti with empty suitcases, put beans in the suitcases, fly back, and then we were going to serve those beans. That's where we started. That was the ground level. It's just like, hey, like, wow, you guys are just so much not there and understanding. So that's literally where we were. And we were like, oh yeah, it's easy, no problem. We're just gonna fly over there with some empty bags. We're gonna get some beans and then just come back, right? So we really had like a ton to learn on the coffee end, but then also on like a lot of just the red tape on the end of starting an actual nonprofit, right? And we're still going through that. And like he said, just now, recently, we're really understanding that niche area that we're in, because now we can rely on the community, which now we're really starting to put it together. And that's a part of like what I spoke to before, why I love coffee so much, because it's just a community commodity. So the biggest thing is now we're getting people in this community, right, to talk, to laugh, to have fun around our commodity, around Rugid Grind, but to also look in the view and kind of to serve this bigger purpose other than us, right? Mm-hmm. So we're really, like, we've come a long way, and we, like he said, like we're getting there now, and we're hoping to really turn that corner. But we've definitely come a long way from just thinking we're just gonna go snag some beans, throw them in a bag, and come back to here. So
yeah, I guess that would be called the ultimate direct trade model right there. Yeah. So what were the first steps that you took in creating this company, and what was the driving vision for the company through all of those steps that you needed to take?
Well, we understood that we wanted to be a legitimate nonprofit, but we wanted to be a legitimate for-profit. So let me back up and tell you how we're structured. 180 is our what we would call sister company. It's our nonprofit. Okay, it owns the for-profit, which is Rugid Grind. And the reason we set that up that way is to give the business side of it an opportunity to fully be a business, while giving the nonprofit side an opportunity to fully be a nonprofit. And so when we sat down to really discuss this, developing this was really kind of strange for us. And so it was strange because I went to school for what they call BAM, which is business as missions. And so the concept is that you create a business, but that business has a business model and a mission model. So we understood that we had to create two separate models for what we're creating in order for it to accomplish or become what we within our minds felt like it was supposed to be. And so with that being said, the very first thing we did was we sat down with a company to help us write the business plan. And we wrote a business plan completely designed for our nonprofit, and then a business plan completely structured for our for-profit. And while they intertwine within each other in language, they are two separate entities. And so that was the first step, because we had never been a part of something that was structured the way we were thinking about it. Like I said, 18 years I've been in student ministry, so I've dealt with kids in that capacity, but I've dealt in church. And while some people would tell you that a church is a ministry and a business, they're not structured in a way that that's the way that they market themselves, right? They market themselves as a ministry. And so we needed to create a structure, an infrastructure of something that was two separate things and then the same thing at the same time. And so we sat down with someone and had a plan written. Then once we got the business plan developed, then we had to sit down and discuss, now who are we and what will we be? What is our long game and what's our short game, right? And so we knew long down the road, we wanted to be able to acquire homes and then put host parents in those homes, and then put those homeless teens in those homes with those host parents to create some structure, but also to create more of a family environment. We knew that's what we wanted to do, but we also understood that that was the long game. The short game was, how do we start right now working with and building leverage in the direction we're trying to go with what we're trying to accomplish, the mission at hand. And so what we understood with that was there's plenty of nonprofits that are designed or organized or structured in a way to their mission is homeless teens. And so we understood that. And so we were like, let's partner with them, right? Let's align our mission with their mission and then create a larger movement than just saying, okay, we're going to keep stacking money until we can start housing teens, you know? And so that's kind of, we sat down and what's the word I looked for? Whiteboarded it and just kind of mapped out what we were going to be and how we were going to move forward and what did that structure look like for us. Honestly, we did all of those things before we sat down and said, what does our brand look like? What does our logo for Oneighty look like? What does our logo for Rugid Grind look like? What does our web presence look like? To be honest with you, we did all that before we even knew what we were going to be bringing in our first set of beans, right? And then after that, which is how we developed a relationship with Joe, is that we went down to Mill City Roasters and we just took a course on learning roasting, learning coffee, just learning what all went into making quality roast and a quality product, right? Which is how we met Joe. And then I got to sharing with Joe just kind of what we were there to accomplish and who we were. And Joe was like, I really think that that's an awesome mission. And so it was really nice to not only develop that relationship, but in developing that relationship with Joe, it gave me a even stronger understanding of the community that lies within the coffee industry, because we're there with a bunch of guys we've never met before. No one was like resistant or hesitant to share with us what they've learned along the way. But not just that, also they even said, if there's any way that we can be of an assistance to you, let us know. And so we're exchanging contacts with people we've met for the first time. And so to see the diversity and to see the community is like, I don't see you as a threat, but I see you as a partner in what we're in the coffee industry. And there was no tension, right? Mm-hmm. And so that even more so created in us like, okay, this is definitely, we're going down the right direction, you know, and we can tell you about all of the crazy opportunities that presented themselves, even going and coming. You know, we laugh when we tell people we caught a flight to Minnesota and we get there, and to be honest, like we rented a car, right? And we rented it was like a Malibu. Well, we get there and the guys are like, well, the lady was like, we're sorry, we don't have your car, but here, we're going to put you in a Range Rover. And they put us in a Range Rover for the week. And what was so crazy is that when people see you, like, and they see you pulling up in the Range Rover everywhere we went to go eat or when we went to go meet, it's like, oh, these guys are on. They didn't realize, like, we were literally stepping out there on nothing but faith and the people who believed in us that sent us, you know? But along the way, it's just continuously, progressively become better. I mean, I've even become, I guess I would say, more even impressed with the art in coffee. Like we've been to a couple of expos where we're watching like how a quality cup of coffee is made right there in front of you, and the presentation and the inviting that whole culture is. And so we understood also at the beginning that coffee was a great place to start the conversation of the mission, because sitting down in front of a great quality cup of coffee, right? That aroma, just that environment that coffee creates, created the environment that is conducive to sit down and say, this is who we are. This is the mission that's in front of us. I don't know how you can be of a help to what we're building, but if there is a way, let's sit down and talk about what that is.
Man, I love that was your experience in the industry, and I think you could have picked a better person to learn from than Joe. And, the community of coffee too, especially these days, is very open
Yes.
about what they've learned, and the community has been progressing that way really at a breakneck speed in the last few years even. And so I'm really glad that your company is kind of coming to fruition in this time in coffee. And it's always kind of been like that. There's been little areas of like roasting, for example, has not always been super open. People would have secret blends and shrouded roasting rooms and all that stuff, but not so that much anymore. And to hear about the growth that you've had in the coffee, on the coffee side of things, especially, is really cool to hear. And your first entry into doing coffee as a business, what did that look like? Did you purchasing a roaster and then setting it up and roasting that coffee? Like, describe that process of going from, okay, we're going to pull the trigger on this plan. We're gonna buy the equipment, and now we're gonna sell this coffee from A to B. What did that journey look like?
Well, let me start off. Side note: I know we have mentioned Joe's name a lot during this podcast, but I just want to state Joe is an amazing dude.
Yeah.
And he really has taken us under his wing. I just want to throw that out there before we keep moving forward. But that process really started when we went to Minneapolis, and we took the class at Mill City Roasters. Again, this is going to be a show of our development.
Yes.
We were under the impression that we were going to go out there, and during this weekend class, we were going to become master roasters, right? We were going to get this paper certificate that says we're master roasters, and we were just going to tear it up, right? So we did get the certificates, and we did go through the class, finish the class, and our thought process was like, okay, hey, we're going to buy this roaster, right? And then we're just going to get it shipped to Houston, then we're going to start the movement. Then while in the class, we did start to understand that there is a mastery behind roasting coffee, and it's not as simple as just sitting there and watching it. So, so our game plan really had to change there. And as we changed with our game plan, we also realized that the people who buy coffee will not just flock to you. They won't just show up at your door when you say, hey, we got coffee, right? So so our game plan there as well had to change, right? We had to keep developing. And so that's honestly where we came from, and we actually partner with, and Brian can speak to him a little bit more, but we actually partner with our coffee, our bean like importer. So we don't get the green bean right now. Mm-hmm. Right now, we already get it roasted in our different flavor profiles. But soon we're actually in the process of right now of getting our own roaster, and then hiring full staff to actually roast for us. So we're in that process right now of opening our own, but starting out, we did partner with really a like-minded roaster who sees the vision, sees the mission. That was very important for us. And then from there, we started reaching out to businesses within our community, and we started working with them and saying like, hey, here's the mission. Here's what you'll be helping when you replace this Folgers coffee with Rugid Grind coffee, right? Here's the mission that we're coming with within your own city. And then you can also be proud to say like, hey, here in our dental office, here in our church, here in our office in general, we have this coffee that supports the community in this way. And that was really big for us. And that's really more so how we've been going. We've really been more of like a B2B process. Soon we will be really more so launching and focusing on our B2C. But right now we have just really been going hard, really B2B, and trying to make those ties within Houston and get businesses and churches and other organizations behind us to support the mission.
And I would say we went that route with the roasting for a number of reasons. One, we understood the urgency in our mission. And let me say that by saying, I would say a month to 2 months before we took the trip to Minnesota to meet with the to be at Mill City Roasters, we got a phone call of a family who was just telling us of what they had experienced. There were a group of kids walking into a wooded area, and so they called the police just to notify them that we see 4 or 5 kids in various ranges of age walking back into the woods alone. Cops show up, go back there. These kids are sleeping in tents. Mom and dad left 2 days prior, going to find food, and never came back. We don't know why. I mean, it could be, the list of reasons could go on and on. Drugs, food, picked up for some various reason by the police, and just didn't want to say that they had kids. And so what we learned in our research at the beginning is, like, in the United States of America, there's like 1.5 million homeless teens. Okay. In the state of Texas, that number is about 130,000. Okay. And so you take that into consideration and you just start weeding those numbers back into cities and then counties. And you see, like, there is this need, right? And so we were like, we got to find a way to move faster than getting a roaster, learning to roast, and then being able to test the market and put out a product. So what we did was we reached to some of those relationships that we developed while we were out there and found somebody who was willing to roast for us. Not only willing to roast for us, but willing to roast for us basically at almost no cost, right? And so that opened up the opportunity for us to start developing our profile, for us to begin to develop our brand, and to create a proven following for what we're doing, so that, like, when people see us, it's not, we're just getting started. We just started a group of guys who just started roasting coffee, who just started understanding the process. No, we're some guys who've been putting in the work, even in a place and in a position that probably isn't like what I would say the coolest or dopest startup, right? Like, for me, I'm a barbecue guy. So for me, there's no greater love than to be standing in front of the barbecue pit and throwing my rub and throwing my sauce on my meat, right? But understanding that the mission was bigger than my pride and bigger than my ego, right? And bigger than me saying, I want to be able to say, not only is this the company we started to support this nonprofit, but we are the ones out here roasting these beans. And there was we're in this season and in this time where that could not be the statement, but the mission was still at hand. And so we partnered with these different roasters. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the love and the support and even the faith and the belief in what we were building was so great that, I mean, honestly, we've created margins and we've created opportunities within our company at the start that, honestly, if we would have went out and bought our roaster and bought our spots and, I mean, got us a lease and leased a spot, we would have been fighting the climb versus the healthy climb that we're creating while still staying true to our mission. Because while we are selling coffee, the mission is not to be rich. The mission is not to be the next big whatever in the coffee industry. The mission is to get kids off the street. That's the mission. And the coffee is just one of the multitudes of catalysts that we have the ability to utilize to make that happen.
That's awesome. It gives you a lot of time to be able to develop yourselves professionally while getting going at the same time, just like you said. And so much of, coffee is a vehicle for change, as a vehicle for community. And, the humility that I hear in your words and the way you're approaching this as being, it's not about being able to say it's yours necessarily. It's what are you doing for the mission which you started the company for, and to get traction on that is just something that's going to sit well with your soul later on, much more than it would be if you had to put it on hold for the sake of art, the art of coffee.
And what I would say we're doing is similar to you. Are you guys familiar with everyone's got to be familiar with Uber and Lyft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you imagine this concept. Just dream with me for a moment, okay? You imagine this concept where the reason that model worked was because we had people who had cars who at times in the day could be using that car to make money, because right now that car is sitting, right? And one of the things we learned going to these different expos and going to these different events and talking to people were, the roaster is a dope investment. It's one of the greatest investments we're going to make. But let's be honest with you, I'm roasting 2 days a week, and I got a roaster sitting in a shop 3 days a week doing nothing because I don't have the clientele to be roasting 5 days a week, And so it was like, okay, that makes sense. So let's kind of modify that model to fit what we're building. And that is partnering with some people who love roasting and who know what they're doing, right? While we learn to roast and learn to develop our skill in what we're doing, while at the same time building a quality brand. And I think that's kind of where we came to the conclusion. This is what might not work for everybody. Everybody might not like the model, but this model works for us.
What's the reception been like to, as your business to business model, you're going out to people, and it sounds like the mission is really resonating with people. How is your community there in Houston responding?
They're responding really well, actually. I think so far we have had a lot more people who are stepping in to help than I think we would have thought would have happened at the beginning before we went fully into operation. So that's really been amazing. And then the thought, and I guess I don't understand why we didn't put 2 and 2 together, but so far, businesses and people and these organizations and churches, they're just this is our city, and we want to stand with you guys to do something about this problem. And I think that in itself has just been really helpful to us and a pickup for us, because we're at the beginning, we're okay, boom, really it's just us two trying to get this thing done. And I mean, it's a large task, right? But then as you get people along the way, really trying to give you that leg up and say, okay, well, what do you need help with, right? Or what can we do here? Who can we introduce you to there? That's really huge for us as we're continuing to push and to really grow this thing even larger. So, I mean, the reception of the mission has been amazing. I mean, people already love coffee, so we didn't really need them to start receiving the coffee on that side, but they understood the mission, and then they loved that it was attached to something that they love. So we have been received very well here within our community so far, and we're just looking to really keep expanding that.
And I think the other thing that really worked for us that I would say has been a definite up in that is, like he said, we didn't have to sell the vision on coffee because people were drinking it, right? But we made sure that we had a quality presentation. I mean, we bust out our Chemexes and do our pour overs, and we talk about where the coffee is coming from and the change that it's affecting in the place where the coffee is roasted, as well as the change that it's affecting here. And so we had literally businesses who started buying from us on a consistent basis. We had ministries who not only got on board with what we were doing, but was like, not only do we want to buy coffee from you, but we want to advertise your coffee. We want people to know that that this is where the coffee was coming from. And, really, to be honest, that first month, we were just kind of what I would say doing a beta rollout, right? And so in a matter of 2 weeks, we sold almost 200 pounds of coffee. Cold, and when I say cold, I mean, we didn't have any leads coming up to this. Literally, we just started networking with people we already had relationships with in our community and saying, let me come and do a tasting with you.
Yeah, no advertising, no anything.
No.
So when he says cold, we were freezing.
Yeah,
wow.
freezing.
we literally just stepped out the house and said, all right, hey, everybody, we got some coffee here.
and anybody who would listen to us, like anybody. I mean, I went to neighbors. I called friends. I called family. True story, it's going to sound so crazy, but true story. So I lived in Oklahoma for a while. And so one day I said, I'm driving to Oklahoma and I'm going to meet with my friends and my folks in Oklahoma. So I get there. Getting there and having a place to stay was nothing. Having food, nothing, right? Like, because I got friends and I got family there. So I don't have to get a hotel or anything like that. And I set a goal. The goal was, I just want to sell $200 to $300 worth of coffee and get the name out there, right? That people know, let my friends know, my family know what we're doing, right? We get there and one of my friends, she was like, I'm going to host a tasting at my house. I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. I get there, I do the tasting. Before you know it, I got a ministry that reached out to us and we do a tasting with them. We left Oklahoma. We sold $600 worth of coffee with the expectation to only get rid of $200 worth of coffee. And we did that without being able to hit all of the places that reached out to us that wanted us to come and meet with them. So we're supposed to be back there again in November, just making some more runs, but making some more rounds. But what I'm saying is people were receiving to what we were doing because of the mission. But even if you were a coffee drinker, like the coffee we were bringing for people to taste and try is a good quality coffee. It's better than what you're going to get at a store. It's cheaper than what we would pay for a high priced premium coffee. So for them, it's an opportunity not only to support a mission, not only to experience a coffee that I've never experienced before, right? But to experience it at a price point that I feel comfortable enough to say, I can support this mission and still support my habit, right? And so it has just literally been a really, really, really awesome move and an awesome opportunity just at the startup phase of it all.
And I mean, we're really trying to, we had to get crafty with it as well. And we will be releasing more tricks from up under our sleeve. But until we really get to the point where we have like our stream of like advertising set up, which we're working on right now, and before we fully push that, we're just getting really crafty with it. Like Brian started, he said, you know what if we Uber with the coffee?
Yeah.
Throw coffee in the trunk, spray it, let it fumigate the car, the smell of coffee. So when people hop in their cars, it's, oh man, I want some coffee. It smells like coffee here. It sure does. We actually have coffee in the trunk. And then we just spell out the mission to them. Like, hey, here's what our coffee does. We got the coffee in the trunk right now if you want to buy it, right? So
nice.
Using Uber as a way to meet people. And out of that, we actually got some volunteers. We got some people to work with us. All those different things. Like out of that really came some really good opportunities as well. But we're just trying to keep it crafty right now. We're bootstrapping and we're keeping it crafty right now. But yeah, we're loving what we're doing.
What is the point for you? Like, what is the point at which you will move into the next phase of the business where you can start to gain another level of traction in the mission of the company as you're building the foundation and getting the financials, working and solid? At what point are you going to be going, okay, now we're going to start moving on, not necessarily some properties, but maybe like, toward the ministry side to the homeless teens in the area. At what point does that phase kick in with your business?
Now we're actually, and we just had a meeting over this very thing like last night with us and our board right now. So we're actually shooting for like closer to mid to end of next month. We're really shooting for this goal. We're shooting for to release like our full advertising, and we're shooting to release to say, okay, hey, here's this community, here's this project that we're starting, and we're actually trying to gain our partnerships with other nonprofits within Houston that are trying to accomplish the same goal. So we're trying to create this group of us to actually attack this problem. So we've really been working on this kind of like homeless youth, homeless teens, like ecosystem. So we've been building that up until this point. And next month, like towards the end of the month, we're really looking to release it and to really just let that thing go, along with the advertising more so side of Rugid Grind. So we've been getting that together in budgets and campaigns and different things like that. So we could spread a lot more quicker and vastly and wider, right? So like we have really been kind of taking our time cultivating that to make sure we go down the right path and take the right funnels.
Right.
But we are excited. It is a push. We are pushing, but we are excited. And we'll be releasing that, launching that, and starting that group and that program and our advertising closer to the end of next month. So it's been a journey, and we're really excited for that part.
Say a little bit more about the ecosystem you mentioned. What does that look like? Describe that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think, and we really sat down and we're like, okay, hey, here's the mission that we're trying to solve. And I think for me personally, one of my biggest things, one of my biggest pet peeves is I hear people all the time, hey, I'm going to start this nonprofit. Hey, I'm going to start this nonprofit. Oh, yeah, we're going to start a nonprofit. We're going to start a nonprofit. And then you have like a gazillion nonprofits trying to solve the same problem, but yet they never communicate with each other. Yet they never work with each other. They never help each other to solve this problem. Everything is just based around their nonprofit. And for us, we wanted to make sure that Oneighty was not like that, right? So we want to go ahead and be the catalyst to bring in the other groups who are trying to help solve this problem. We want to bring in those organizations to partner with us so we can all help each other complete the mission, not just start something to work on the mission, but we want to complete the mission. And we feel like we're only going to do that as an ecosystem together, helping each other, using our resources, and just really working with each other to change homeless youth, homeless teens, city by city. And when we create that ecosystem, we create something that's scalable, and we create something that's duplicable. We can really copy this city by city by city to really help this problem and again complete the mission here within the United States before we start to go out anywhere else. But here within the United States, but we're starting right now creating that ecosystem, creating that structure within Houston of other nonprofits who are passionate about the same thing that we're passionate on. And it just doesn't make sense for us to all work separately when we can all work together to accomplish the same goal. Like, we aren't competitors, right? We all care about these kids. We all want to see these kids' lives change. So let's do it together, right? That's the ecosystem that we're referring to, and that we're trying to build and that we're trying to grow.
And the way that Rugid Grind, I would say, partners with that that effort is, so it's a number of ways. One is we're going to create streams and avenues for these organizations, basically to be able to be a distributor of our coffee and make a percentage, not a small percentage, but like 15, 20% of their sales would go back into their ministries, into their missions. Even if that means like you get, let's say one of those missions get 30 or 40 people to sign up for a subscription. They'll make 20%, 15, 20% of that subscription for the life of the subscription. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, still having a percentage within us that allows us to kind of still help those other entities that that maybe don't have the following to be able to create a 20% or 15% return on selling coffee. Because what we've learned in our research is there are people who are doing this 2 or 3 homes at a time. Then there are people who are doing this, 330 acres of land at a time, and so being able to disperse and to support these other entities, because one of the things that we learned definitely in the state of Texas, is that there was no direct governmental funding for what we're trying to attack, which is the homeless teen population. So I believe, just our conviction is that I shouldn't wait on the government to fix a community problem. I should pull the community together to help and come together as a community to fix a community problem. Okay. And so this is our opportunity to say, we're going to come together as a community, and here's how we're going to come together as a community. We're not going to sit back and wait for the government to create a grant or some form of funding or some form of assistance. We are going to create the assistance by using something that we already use. And one of those things that made coffee, even in this, that much more of a grand idea, is that even in the midst of a recession, people didn't stop buying coffee, because not only is there a need for the coffee, but there's also a need for the community. There's a need for that sense of community that comes with coffee, that conversation, that I'm having a business meeting, let's meet over coffee. We're starting an organization, let's start that, let's sit down and brainstorm that organization over coffee. So we just understood that coffee was one of those things that communicated everywhere, that would go the distance of time, and that could support the overall concept of what we're trying to build. Like we said, we're not trying to start a nonprofit. Our mission is not just start Oneighty, and our mission isn't just sell coffee. The true core of our mission is not only getting these kids off the street, but also teaching them financial literacy. I'm 35 years old, and at 35 years old, I have debts that I created in my college years that I still pay for today, because no one explained to me the power in that I had in my credit, and so, also teaching that understanding that everybody's path ain't the same. Some of us are called to go to college and get degrees and work for Fortune 500 companies, but some of us are sitting on Fortune 500 ideas, Fortune 500 vision that just requires us to get mentorship, to get pointed in the right direction, to go out and build that thing that could be the next game changer for whatever industry it is. And those ideas and those thoughts and those abilities rest and lie in some of those kids that are out there on those streets with no opportunity. I know how complicated it was for me to get through college and to get through high school, right, with both of my parents at home and a meal on the table, right? So imagine how complicated it must be to have to do that and then leave out of the building knowing that was your last meal of the day, that was your last fresh breath of fresh air, and you don't even know where you're getting ready to lay your head. You don't even know where your next shower is going to come from. So trying to add those weights on top of trying to be focused enough to get a decent education is very complicated. And so we just understand that we are not out to say Oneighty did it or Rugid Grind did it. We're just out to say that it was accomplished. And so because of that, we understand that we can, instead of trying to attack this by ourselves, we can pull a Power Ranger move, right? Morph and make this thing happen by working together for the collective good as a whole than trying to accomplish it by myself.
Amen. Such a appropriate thing, coffee, as a community builder itself, and you're building a community of people to solve this problem through coffee. I think that's just so right. And I wonder, as we hear the mission and we know that this is not a problem that's just a Houston problem, this is something that, as listeners think about their areas, that it's a problem in their city, in their county as well. What would you say from your experience to people in terms of what they can do to make a difference in the homeless youth crisis in their area? Because we have businesses and in coffee shops, coffee shops are always talking about community, and community gathers in the coffee shop, and to take advantage of that positioning socially in the city, and learn from your example in mobilizing this ecosystem of people working for the same thing and using coffee as a vehicle for change. What advice would you have for people in the coffee shop setting to maybe take some steps and make a difference where they can?
And I think to those coffee shops, and I think to those coffee brands that are already established right now in other cities across the country, I think the biggest thing that we can say is set the stage, allow for the verbalization of the problem to flow through your brand or flow through your coffee shop. Set the stage where others can get up and use your brand to speak to the problem. And then also allow other nonprofits and other people who are doing this to be able to step up on that stage and talk to your customer base and talk to the city through your brand, through your company, through your product that probably already has such a strong voice itself. I know a ton of coffee shops that people across just Houston like already know, right? But we're asking them to just set the stage. Allow us and allow other people, allow other nonprofits who are trying to solve this problem to be able to get up on the stage that you set and vocalize what we're trying to do for these kids and how we're trying to change their lives. That's the biggest thing that they can really do.
I think the other thing too is to understand that what we're talking about is not like a taboo, right? It's not like, I would say, I was always told as a kid, there's two things you watch when you're talking to people you've meeting for the first time. Don't talk about politics and don't talk about religion, because everyone has a very, very various view on politics and religion, right? They vary in very broad across different individuals. But when we're talking about a homeless teen, we're talking about an individual who, if we be honest, doesn't have the capacity or the capability in a lot of places to stand on their own 2 feet. But it's also a issue or a dilemma that sometimes get overshadowed because we see homeless adults and forget that there's a homeless kid somewhere, right? And so what I'm saying is those businesses, whether if it be a coffee shop or even a coffee roasting place, like my partner said, creating and setting the stage, giving them a platform to say, this is what we're dealing with, this is what we're going through. And no, we're not saying that, give $1 million. I mean, if you got $1 million to give, by all means do that. But sometimes it's just creating an environment for people to network, to find the resources that they need, to find the relationships that they need. And sometimes that just happened by you letting people know this is a mission that I support, either financially, either we let them use our coffee shop for their meetings, whatever, something that shows that you're standing with the initiative, that you're standing with them in regards to the cause of what's going on.
I love that. I have a client in Lake Worth, Florida. Yeah, their coffee shop is a central location for a lot of recovery meetings. Yes. And it has done a ton of good for that community, and they employ people from that community as well. And it's made such a positive difference. And I love the advice too, because it doesn't require the wholesale change of your business to become a nonprofit and then change the way that you do business necessarily. You can just start where you are, and it's already built into your model as a coffee bar that people use your coffee bar already for their own individual platforms in business meetings. Corporately speaking, it should be possible as well. So this whole conversation to me seems like one big networking miracle, and being able to get in with the coffee community the way you have, to have tapped into those resources in Minnesota the way you did, and being able to accomplish that for the sake of your mission for others to do the same thing, to be hooked up with solutions that are already existent within the city that they live in. It is something that I think we can all get behind, and I love the mission and the story that you've shared here. So thank you both so much for coming on the show and explaining this and inspiring us with your words and your work. Where can we go to learn more and support Rugid Grind?
Definitely our main place is our website, rugidgrind.com. That's RUGIDGRIND.com, rugidgrind.com. You can also go and follow us and see the work that we're going to be putting out here, especially coming up in this next month. You'll see our partnerships. You'll see a lot of events that we're going to be at, and we're going to just be spreading the word pretty vastly. You can follow us, Rugid Grind Coffee. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you'll be able to keep up with everything. And then from there, you'll also be able to plug into the ecosystem that we were talking about, and that we're setting up to really help the city. And then if you're interested in being a part of that ecosystem, you can reach out on those platforms to us, because we're definitely interested in growing this ecosystem and then copying it across the United States to really solve, complete, and accomplish our mission and really attack this problem.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for being on the show. This was a great conversation, and I can't wait to see the difference that you're going to be making with your business and are already accomplishing.
Thank you. And we really appreciate you having us. We appreciate you giving us an opportunity to tell our story on your platform.
Well, it was such a pleasure to have Brian and Averett on the show today to share their story and to inspire us to ask the question of ourselves, as they recommend at the end of this conversation. What can we do to support what's already going on in our communities? Now, you might be in a unique position where you can take on a project or create a company yourself. But, for a lot of us, maybe it's just a matter of officially taking on sponsorship of an event or organization that's creating opportunity for people that need opportunity in your area. Is already happening. Like we said, as we were talking, it's already happening in your coffee shop. People are networking, people are having meetings about social issues. And if your company comes alongside and, does things like provides regular meeting space or provides coffee or just does what it can to just come alongside community efforts to provide relief to people that need it, that's a great step in the right direction. And if you can do more than that, that's going to be awesome as well. But coffee has always been a vehicle for change, whether that's officially or unofficially. We do have a platform, be that a podcast or a coffee shop. And I think today's conversation is not only an inspiration, but is also a reminder that we should stay curious about what we can do with what we have to help others. So thanks again to Brian and Averett for coming on the show. If you want to support Rugid Grind and find out more about what they're doing, maybe buy their coffee on their website. It is rugidgrind.com. That's RUGIDGRIND.com, rugidgrind.com. I would recommend following them also on Instagram. It's Rugid Grind Coffee on Instagram. Give these guys some support and stay tuned for the next phase of their journey. As Averett was talking about, there's more cool stuff to come, so you can sign up for their newsletter as well to stay informed about what's happening at Rugid Grind. Now, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so by emailing chris@keystotheshop.com with all of your questions, comments, and feedback, things like that. Always love hearing from you, and that's also the email you can use if you want to talk about working with Keys to the Shop Consulting, anywhere from over-the-phone consultation. We can set up something like a regular monthly phone call where we talk through issues you might be having or just general career questions, etc. I have several clients where that is what they want to do. Also, in-person assessments, like in your shop, and working with you to develop your business as it expands or actually launches. In fact, I just got back from Lomita, California. Corridor Flow, a client of mine there, launched a wonderful business. A month ago, they had their soft opening, and I got to be there for 3 days to help with final preparations and establishing of workflow and some standards and assessment too. It was such an honor to be able to be there for that, and to see something just come to fruition is so exciting. And it would be an honor too to be able to have Keys to the Shop be a part of your journey, whatever that happens to be at the moment. So again, you can reach out and we can talk about what that looks like for you right now. Chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, lastly, here in terms of news, what are you doing on the 15th and 16th of November? If you're in the Pacific Northwest area, I would love to see you over at Coffee Fest Pacific Northwest. It's a 4th show that's been added. First time the Coffee Fest has done this. It's a 2-day show. It's got its own latte art competition. I'll be a head judge of that, of course. But the same kind of value that you get from seminars and trainings and workshops and lectures, that is there in force in these 2 days that are just packed with value for coffee retailers. I've always said that Coffee Fest is the best trade show to go to if you're in coffee retail, and I maintain that. I've been going along enough to know what kind of value you can get from it. So go to coffeefest.com, check out what's on offer over at Coffee Fest Pacific Northwest, and I hope to see you there. I'll be there for both days, judging and teaching, and introduce yourself. It'd be awesome to meet you. And with that, it is the end of our show. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to this amazing story of Rugid Grind. I hope that for some of you, this conversation is a catalyst for taking action on supporting things like this in your own hometown. And thank you again for listening. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.